Well, I can't believe you're telling me we're through. Wanna turn, so where do I go from here? Was it something I said, something I did to you? Well, I can feel the change is coming soon.
Definitely think that I'm gonna develop a devotion to St. Francis. I never really known that much about him. I mean, I knew what everybody else knows, but just kind of with Father's talks and seeing how he lived the virtues to like the highest level, and visiting his tomb and praying and asking him to intercede for me for that day. I think it's really building a bond, if you will, between me and St. Francis. So I hope to continue that and get a stronger devotion to him. So.
Awesome. I definitely developed a deal of respect for St. Francis, and I think I have maybe the start of a devotion to St. Francis.
Yeah, no, most of his stories, just how he converted. He had been just, a regular guy, a troubadour, and just not too serious, but he had a devotion, or he appreciated the poor. He gave his cloak to a poor person as he was leaving for one of the the Crusades. He was just a regular guy, but then he was called to something so much higher and more. I'd like to be able to respond to my calling as he did.
I actually think that I do have the beginnings of a devotion to St. Francis. He helped me out a lot this weekend, just with small things, and I will always remember that. Okay, I was praying in front of the crucifix that spoke to him at San Damiano, and I really wanted to go to Stations of the Cross, and the only church that I had seen them in was closed, and so I was really frustrated, and I also wanted to go see the Blessed Sacrament, and so I was praying in front of the crucifix, and I was just asking St. Francis to please pray for me because I really wanted to find Stations for the Blessed Sacrament. And so I get up and leave the side chapel where the cross is, and I just kind of walk across, and I find this little side chapel with this little door, and I can see that the Blessed Sacrament's inside of there, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if I can get in. So I shove the door open, and I open it up, and there's the Blessed Sacrament, and then there's Stations. And I just didn't, it was amazing because he answered my prayer in 2 seconds. He's so prompt.
I'm taking away from Assisi is just maybe not a new, but a heightened awareness of and appreciation for saints. In Rome, they're all over the place. The remains or shrines to saints, which is great, but it gets a little not mundane, but just kind of ordinary. And here you have these two great saints, St. Clare and St. Francis, who were walking around the very streets you're walking around, and they're still very present. You can tell with the people that they're present. You can tell there's images of them all over the place, and it's such a part of the culture that it really kind of made me aware of what a saint is more than in Rome. And am I changed? I don't know. I like to think so, but it's only been a couple days. So, and there's always this kind of spiritual high, I guess, that you come away with right after a retreat or a recollection. I guess the big telling thing will be if I can keep it up and keep doing the same thing that I was doing during the recollection and the retreat, and just kind of balancing that with not being silent and not having this day set aside. So we'll see.
I actually believe it's kind of incredible because it was such a short, in the scheme of things, it was a really short retreat, a really short pilgrimage. But I guess it kind of brought back into my mind the idea of the necessity of penance in forming your character. And just, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was in some sort of rut, but maybe after this weekend I feel there's a whole lot more I could do to increase in sanctity Yeah, of course, there's a whole lot more I could do. I guess there's a whole lot more we could all do. But yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to Lent actually a lot more than I was, because I think that'll be a great opportunity to kind of live some of the stuff that has been brought to my mind again.
It was a really good weekend because all weekend long I had been reading Saint Therese and just how she was talking about being humble and accepting sufferings and embracing them instead of just being like, but Saint Therese loved to suffer. And so I actually found out this weekend that I owe the IRS $400. And it was actually a good weekend for that to happen because it's like, thank you, God. I owe $400 to the IRS, but you know what? It's nothing. And I actually thanked God for my cross. The day of recollection was the most amazing day of my life. Just sitting there talking to God all day long and not really communicating with anyone else. It was so incredible. And afterwards, the next morning when everyone was talking to each other, I just realized how happy everyone was, how like the sense of peace that you could just feel in everyone. And I will always remember that. I actually wish I could go back and stay there forever.
There are many places that I would like to go. There are many things that I will never know. To see the sands of deserts, to swim in Clube, praying in St. Peter's. I could hear him say, all of it is passing. This life that we live in, everything is fading.